Hello everyone, it's Sarah from Spitfire Audio, and in this video I'm going to compose a lullaby with you all. So the backstory here is that my sister is pregnant. Her husband has asked me to write a lullaby that he can sing over and play during the pregnancy and for the baby after the baby's born. He had a very specific vision. Actually, verbatim, he said, "Something to sing over. Soft and slow. I'm thinking piano-driven." Then we decided it should be peaceful and calming. And so I decided to use our two most recent releases, Swarms and Albions Orchestral Selects. So, of course, I'm starting here with a blank page. Big ensemble chords from the mandolin swarm patch. In the beginning, I don't sustain the chords for a long period of time. Actually, I'm taking a lot of breaks. I want to repeat that for the beginning. And then just to add something different, I'm going to increase the frequency. Now, to fill in those empty spaces in between the mandolin chords, I'm adding in some harmonic plucks from the harp swarm because I wanted to use the closest mic possible to add some tightness to the sound. This is meant to fill in these empty spaces between the mandolin chords. I'm also going to pull down the velocities a bit because I don't want this to stick out too much. I want it to be nice and soft. Okay, so I want to sometimes double those plucks with the marimba swarm. So I'm using the soft stick hit. I'm going to just add some of the marimba rolls from the swarms again with the medium stick. So it's a bit grittier with the medium stick rather than the soft stick. So I'm using some tree mic because I can afford some distance with this one now. So yes, I want that to come in here at measure 9 because I know I want the melody to come in here. So I want to accompany the melody with a deep roll to make it feel more impactful. Great. On to the melody. So I'm using the intimate grand piano, which can be found on Labs, but it is also an originals library. I just happen to be using the Labs plugin out of convenience right now. I took all the Labs reverb off because I wanted to place this piano in the same room as the other instruments. So this is the only instrument I have loaded up that's not recorded in Air Studios. And so for that reason, I'm throwing the Air Studios reverb on there, just using the Essentials version, putting a relatively weak mix. I really wanted the melody to be able to stick out above all the swarms and all the textures. And piano is just a good choice for that. It has a much clearer, brighter sound than the other instruments I'm using. I'm editing volumes and velocities as much as I can. It's always good to mix as you go, just so you see the piece developing in a correct way. Okay, so now I'm going to record in the melody, for the first part at least. Now I'm going to do the same thing. But with octaves. Okay, in this next half of the intro, I wanted things to get a little more ethereal. For the first mandolin chord, I'm going to let it be sustained, and then I'm going to go back to the usual rhythm. I also really liked the idea of adding some low-pass filter automation onto this. So I'm adding the high cut frequency as an automatable parameter because I just felt like I wanted the swarms to be a little bit less bright, a little more dreamy, a little more in the background, especially when the melody comes in. So I'm going to keep playing a little more with that. But I know especially when I have the sustained chords, I want to start off with a little more filter applied and then sort of come up for air in a way as the chord plays. So here's how that sounds. I also want the major second chord to be brighter generally than the major one chord because it does emphasize this feeling of kind of a newness, a birth. I'm going to keep putting in the melody right now, and then we can build more layers after that. I'm going to take the velocities down again because it can get a little too sharp. I don't want the attack to be strong at all. I want it to be very soft attacks. So that's the rhythm for the beginning. I want to also layer in some strings. So I'm going to start by layering in some string harmonics. This is actually the full string section, but it's the intimate strings patch, so it's a slightly smaller ensemble. And I'm just going to start recording in some of my layers. Next, I'm going to add another layer, but this time it's high strings, and they're playing flautando with their mutes on. So it's a nice light feathery texture that I'm adding in. Now is where I want to bring in some of the silken high strings patch. Again, this is with a mute. This is high strings. It's also from the Epic series, which means it's a fuller ensemble with more players. compared to the flautandos, this is less feathery and more like sweet to me, maybe even a little metallic. It's just a good idea to not just use one patch for strings, to have a few different textures, ideally with slightly different playing styles, just so it sounds more full and realistic. As the melody develops, I want to bring the strings up in register, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to also just keep developing the accompaniment over here. So I'm bringing in some high strings. Okay, so I've gone in, I've added some layers for the flautando strings. I've added a bit of harmonics over here, just to introduce more textures, more movement, more swells. And then I also want to go in and start including some low strings in the layers. I've added some low strings to the mix with the marimba also in the low end. But then in this section, I want all the low end to drop. I want to make sure things tail off nicely and don't just suddenly cut off. So that's, again, a time I'll go in with the pencil and just make sure I'm happy. One other thing I want to do to this melody development halfway through the intro is I want to double the melody on the marimba. So for this doubling, I chose the marimba swarms with the medium sticks. But I wanted it to be as ambient as possible. So I'm using ambient and outriggers. I don't want it to sound close. I want it to sound like an echo of the grand piano, just to make this development section a bit more moving. Okay, so now we're ready for the lullaby theme. This is a quick climax for the piece. This time, I want to transition from the major 7 into a C sharp major chord. So from E major 7 to C sharp major triad. I think this sounds nice because the C sharp is the 5th to that F sharp major chord. So it feels kind of like a relief after everything. And now I need to switch to just major triad. And then back. So that is the harmonic content of the main lullaby theme. Another element I introduce in this section to make it sound more special and important is the harp swarm tremolos. Then we finally get into our peaceful section. I just wanted to keep that harp tremolo for the theme so that it feels shimmery and like stands out. This to me felt most like something my brother-in-law could sing. For the melody doubling, I'm going from doubling the piano with the marimba to now doubling it with the harp. I'll still keep that octave in, but yeah, I really like the harp in a deep register like that, so I think it does wonders for bringing out the melody. For the lullaby theme melody, I also really want to triple down on bringing it out, so I am doubling that melody onto the Celeste. I have the high strings flautandos coming in and out, the low strings as well, starting to play some deeper notes. One new element I'm bringing in, this brushed pizzicato in the low strings. So this is another Albion Orchestral Selects patch, and it's the epic string section, so the bigger section. So I'm going to record that in now. I want to bring in a couple new elements from Albions Selects. So I took notice of these super air patches. They have it for the high woodwinds and also the low woodwinds. And they're gorgeous. They're super airy, which really helps with this whole dreamy vibe I have going on. So I'm just going to add some color with this. And then some of the high woodwinds I'll bring in. So here's how they sound. And that's it for the woodwinds. I just want them to have this moment, similar to what I'm doing with the harp tremolo. One more thing, I want to add a counter melody with the hollow, distant, high brass patch. It feels kind of like a harmonic, although it's brass. It feels kind of like a harmonic, but again, I was searching for airy, hollow sounds, and thankfully Albion Selects provided that. As a general rule of thumb for this piece, I wanted all of the accompaniment, all the chords, all of the textures to be far away in the room, maybe in the back of the room, in various places. And I wanted the melody, which is just the piano and the occasional doubling. I wanted that to be more intimate and close. So here's the line I put in. I wanted it to be dramatic and kind of emotional. So this line is shared between the horns with reverb and compression, so more distant horns, and then some closer up. Going back, I forgot to mention the high brass short patch that I used in the intro just to add a bit of intrigue. Just something really subtle. I also threw a delay on here. I titled this section Peace because it's supposed to be the most tranquil part of the music, a nice, relaxing, and to a overall relaxing piece, but there was some dissonance. And in this final section, there's no dissonance. It's just E major and A major, so 1 to 4. I think there's two ways of handling the issue of muddiness, especially when using swarms. One is EQ, finding those muddy spots and just bringing down those frequencies, bringing up the brighter frequencies, but also removing some tracks. I am definitely someone who gets excited while I'm writing something and I want to keep putting layer after layer, track after track, when in reality I only needed a few of those layers. All right, I think I've got all my tracks in. I've done a bit of processing, not everything that I want to do, but a good starting point. Let's just listen to the piece. This is the Lullaby. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know if you have any questions or comments, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.